Hello, everybody. Or maybe just Jacob. Maybe just me and Jacob. Say hi, Jacob, if you can hear me in the chat, please. Hello, everybody. Or maybe just Jacob. Maybe just me and Jacob. Say hi, Jacob, if you can hear me. Gotcha. I'm a little tiny bit off, tiny bit delay. That's okay. Sweet. Okay, I'm going to take this guy off. Yep. All right. All right, Jacob. What we got here, one of the things I kind of wanted to do, first off, I'm going to go back. I'm just going to blip back for a second and let you see that, well, you saw the title page most likely. Can't tell what you can see and what you can't. But I think I wanted to try the guided patient scenarios as a live. And so this is the Blackboard page where, I can write all kinds of stuff here. Okay. We can even blow it up if I want to make it. So I'm just testing all this out. Sweet. Okay. Audio's okay. Let me know what you think in the chat. DOS chat. You saw the title page. Awesome. Yeah, it's good. Awesome. Okay. All right, here's where it's going to get fun. All right, so we got a 46-year-old me. Because I've been banging my head up against this, so I got a closed head injury. Needs intubation, so we're intubated now. So now we need to transition actually into mechanical ventilation. Now, one of the things I want to pitch real easily is the ability to jump into not only come up with initial vent settings, but then also let's manage it for just a little bit. That's kind of the goal here. So anybody that's joining on now, that's what we're trying to do is to practice some of this. So here's the monitor screen. Let me make sure I got it all set. Okay, here's transition. So 46-year-old with closed head injury. One of the things I wanted to start with is and most likely probably actually come back to, let's go back to the Blackboard page. All right, so we'll come back to that monitors page, but if we're going to do a 46-year-old, let's say it's a male, it's me, male with closed head injury. All right, one of the things, if we're talking about, setting up the vent, all right, then, one of the first things is our blood pressure adequate, right? So, if you look over, and I'll go, our blood pressure was 147/93. I know you can't see that right now, but I wanted to, so let's just do that. BP was 147/93. Heart rate at this time, it was that 52. Let's see. All right. Respiratory rate is 28. SpO2 is 98. And end tidal is 48. All right. So the real question here to kind of hit up is, all right, well, do we need to do anything to blood pressure? So you think blood pressure is stable, borderline, or unstable, Jacob? And of course, I would ask, anybody. Stable. I agree. All right, stable. We don't do anything. Okay. So then let's work out this guy, ultimate question next. Of course, how tall is this guy? Let's do 6'3". All right, so 6'3". So minute volume to calculate that so that we know essentially how to set this VIN up for tidal volume and respiratory rate. And then, of course, I to E ratio, PEEP, and FO2. Okay. All right, so 6-3, of course, the way that I typically train folks to do it is to come up with all right, their height. They get their divine formula for ideal body weight. So here we have 6'3". So I take 5 feet away. That's leaves 1 foot 3 inches. So 1 foot's 12 inches. So 1 foot, so 12 inches plus 3 is 15 inches. All right, that's what we put into the divine formula. 15. That 15 times 2.3 equals, and then male, so plus 50, and that gets us 84.5. All right, so 84.5 is ideal body weight. And then the next question we want to ask. Let's go back to the monitor, the monitor screen here. Is right now the let's see. Oh, we're looking for reasons that the person might be acidic. So I don't have a pH. So in the future, I will have like a labs screen where I'll show you the available labs. We don't have a pH right now. The end tidal is 48, and we usually tell people that's high, right? A little bit higher than normal, even though we keep it real simple. The way that we usually teach is we keep it real simple, scripted almost, and then hopefully over time it gets boring, and at that point, then that's when you're starting to jump in and actually improvise a little bit. Now it's becoming, your own way. So we try to teach people this. So the thing we say is 35 to 45 is normal. 48 end tidal here is slightly elevated, but even though, especially early training, people are don't have the experience to like improvise, we just say, look, just follow the template. Is it over 45? In this case, yes. So maybe that's for a reason. Maybe they need a little bit more air. And if you looked at it for just a second, the respiratory rate's 28. So at 28, they're only clearing up to 48. There probably should be more. So maybe there is a reason they're acidic. Or they're potentially acidic. So that's kind of what we say is, all right, well, you know what, let's just say in this case that maybe they're asking for more air for a reason, because the danger, the way that I always do it is to teach, if you're going to put somebody on the vent, do they need normal amount of air, or do they need do they need more air because they're acidic or they're metabolically acidosis or whatever. So the next step here is, do we give a normal amount of air or a little bit more? And let's just arguably say let's give a little bit more. So normally we take ideal body weight times 100, and that's in mils per kilo per hour to get essentially mils, that's per minute. So instead, we're not going to do 100, we'll do 120. Right? It's a little bit more air than normal, because normal amount of air, minute volume by weight, is 100 mils per kilo per minute. So we'll do 120 times that 84.5. And that gets 10.1. So basically 10.1 liters per minute. So again, 10,140 mils, and we just converted that pretty easily to 10.1. It's a good starting point. All we're trying to do is get to the point where we're starting. And so from there, we now know our minute volume that we want to start at 10.1. All right, so we take this ideal body weight again, and then we multiply it by 6. So 84.5 times 6, it gets us 507. So now we have, targeted tidal volume. Normally in those ventilators you can't put 507, put 510. Usually multitude is 5, right? So, okay, and then if you wanted to figure out, how to get your respiratory rate, you could either calculate it, which, let's do that. If 10.1 liters is 10.1 100 mils, and you divide that by your 510 that you calculated for volume, this is going to spit out about 20. So we'll just say 20, right? And if we and that makes sense. 10 divided by 5 is 2, so that's in that ballpark. All right. So even if you don't remember that, the way that we teach it is if you use the 120 mils per kilo per minute to get your VE, your tidal volume, and then you also use the ideal body weight times the let me back up. If you use the ideal body weight times the 120 mils per kilo per minute, and you use ideal body weight times 6, then this rate is always going to work out to be about 20. So real easy there. All right, so there's our first starting. And then what we can do is say, okay, IDE 1 to 2. There's no real reason that we're going to be breath stacking pathophysiologically yet, so we'll just say it's 1 to 2. I like start at PEEP of 5 and FO2 of 1. If we're doing this in transport or on the scene somewhere, then we need this like basically now. We don't need to be messing around. We need to be getting oxygenation. Then we can, as soon as we want, start backing it back down. Right, Jacob, does all that look good for good starting? Target of 10-1, 5-10, and 20. ID ratio 1 to 2, PEEP of 5, 1.0. Word. Okay. So now let's go back over. I got to keep remembering to switch. I've been writing this down the whole time, thinking y'all were seeing this. Okay. Again, this is where I need to get better. All right. So I just wrote all this down. Otherwise, I would just be talking a crap ton. My bad. Now I would go back and slam this guy and say, okay, this is what we're doing. All right, so let's put in 5-10, 20 rate. We'll keep the flow kind of as set, pattern as set. This is just like stuff that the transport ventilators already kind of have programmed. PEEP of 5, FO2, let's do that at 1.0, 100%. All right, and I'll confirm all that. And so, one of the things that I really like to focus on is, and, we'll give this just a minute. At this point, I'll show you the vitals. Let's say that heart rate is basically the same. SpO2. Gotcha, Jacob. I heard you. Thank you. SpO2 is good. In tidal, let's say just drops a tiny bit. It goes to there. Respiratory rate is now, we're at 20 because we're intubated. Well, let's say that blood pressure changed a tiny bit to 488. All right, now I'll give you an update here. Jacob, let me know if you can hear that blood pressure cuff going up. Okay, good. All right, so now ultimately what we want to do here is to go back. We want 10 of VE. We got that from doing 8.4 of ideal body weight that we calculated from the Divine formula of a 6'3" male. We got 84.5. So we said, okay, do we do 100 mils per kilo per minute, which is normal, but their end-tidal was a little bit elevated here. Even though their rate was high, so this probably should be a little bit lower. So okay, maybe we just give a little bit more air. Okay, so we decided 120 instead of 100. So 120 times 84.5 gets us 10,140 mils. So we just quickly converted that to 10.1 liters per minute. All right, that's going to be our target. So then we're going to go 6 times our ideal body weight of 84.5 gets like a little less than 510. So we just upped it, rounded up to 510. and then 510 divided into 10,000 mils gets us about 20 respiratory rate, because these two, of course, are supposed to multiply together to get this, so all that checks out. IDU ratio of 1 to 2, PEEP of 5, FO2 of 1. Sweet. Let's get back to seeing the actual what we're doing. So here's our 510. Here's our 20. So the flow and the rise time pattern, all that's just specific to whatever event you're using. We don't need that right now. We got PEEP of 5, FO2 of 100% set. Sensitivity is set at -2 of pressure. So anyway, none of that's no big deal. All right, so we've set 510. And what we see here is about 510, and it kind of whacks and wanes a tiny bit, but essentially we're hitting our 500, between 500 and 510 per breath. That's pretty good. So the idea here is, the next step, and I'll write this down and put this back on the screen. All right, so these are what I call the 6 horsemen of the vent apocalypse. Okay, so big thing here is that we have ourselves set up, right? We have a tidal volume of 510, respiratory rate of 20, I to E of 1 to 2, PEEP of 5, FO2 1.0. All right. So what we want to do is make sure that these are matching, closely matching the desired, the actual measured data. We have the settings. We do the settings, but then we want to make sure that the measured data that the vent sends us, that they somewhat closely match. Otherwise, we need to make some tweaks right now, because where we are is we just essentially put them on the vent, came up with the initial settings, and now we've put them to the vent, and now we're about to get this. We're getting this real-time data. This data right here that we get over here, this is like what's being measured right now. These are the settings. That has nothing to do with what's really, or that doesn't mean they're getting these settings exactly. We have to go back and make sure that they are. So that's where we come back to these 6 horsemen of the ventilator apocalypse. Okay, so the idea here is, so we're targeting a VE of about 10 liters. All right, let's go look. There's our VE total. All right, so 15. So in this case, they're getting 15. All right, so but we're targeting, about 10.1. So 15 is pretty significant. They're getting 15. So that means something is wrong. We're not hitting the mark. And if you're out bow hunting, or if you're out shooting, or if a football player is kicking and there's a bunch of wind in any of those situations, what they'll do is they'll kind of angle against the wind, right? So that's kind of what's happening here. That's what we need to do. So before we get too deep, let's go and look at these other elements. Let's make sure that we look at the VTE as well as the little f there, the frequency. Let's go see what's going on. All right, so let's go back and look at VTE, and you can see here that's total. Okay, so here we're moving about that 500 is what it looks like. Okay, so we're moving about 500. That's pretty close. All right, so I simply just write that down here as the 500. All right, and then we look at frequency, respiratory rate. Good gosh. Okay, so 30 is what. So they're breathing. They're supposed to be set they're supposed to be set at 20 here, right? But they're breathing really 30. So what I really need to go do, just as a point of order, is I need to make sure that this reads 30, just like this reads. So my bad. We're working on this, Jacob. We're getting better, buddy. Okay. So here we have, we're actually breathing 30, even though we've set 20, right? We've set 20. We've set 20, but we're actually breathing 30. Okay. So typically that's one of two reasons. Either they're over breathing the vent, they're waking up, but we just intubated them, and let's say that we actually got them intubated with rock, right? So they're not doing that on purpose. So it's probably something that's causing the something is jostling that air in there. It's typically either they need sedation or they need higher sensitivity, and so that's kind of what's happening. What's happening in this case? Actually, let's say that they just changed it. They actually did use succinylcholine, not rock. Okay, so they probably are breathing. And one way to look at that also is you can look at the end tidal. And let's say this is what we see, right? So this is that curare cleft. This is them breathing. This is them like their diaphragm literally dropping down and trying to pull air in. So let's say that, okay, they are breathing. Well, let's give a paralytic. All right, so I'm going to give a paralytic to this patient. Let me lock it in. All right, I've drawn up 100 of rock and I've given paralytics. Because typically if your frequency is higher than your set rate, and some of the vents call these a little different things, but in the end what we're talking about is there's a setting of the rate, and then there's a measured actual time that rate that chest rise and falls. So in this particular case, we need to see we want to, one of two things happen: either they're waking up and breathing, or we're having the something that's causing the air in the tube to jostle, causing the vent to think the patient's taking a breath, and then it fires machine breath. So that's sensitivity. It's usually either a sedation problem or a sensitivity problem when that measured rate is higher than what we've set. So that we think that's probably what we just did, is that we just gave them rock, and now they're getting. Hopefully they're slowing down. It's been real time that the monitors have been going. This physiology engine we're using for this. Let's go back and take a peek, see what we see. All right, so we set 510. We're getting 510. Okay, good. We've set 20, and look, up already back to 20. All right, so that's good. The PEEP is still 5. FO2 is 100. And let's see. And we haven't set IDE 1 to 2. Okay. So then this looks good. And look here. Boom. Now we're back to our VE target of 1020. All right. So now what we've done is we've come in here and we've made sure that the VE matched what we wanted, because we made sure that the VTE and the frequency are right. So now we made sure that those match. Awesome. Now let's go look at our PIP and our P-plat here. These are our pressures. All right, let's go look at that. And your peak pressure here is 21.4. And I believe, yep, here we are. We're in assist control and volume control mode. All right, so 21 is less than 35. That's a good place. So I'm not really worried about pressures. If you wanted to do an inspiratory pause, we can do that real quick. Oh, I'll do it over here. All right, now here in a second, we're doing inspiratory pause, and we'll see the P-plat pop up and tell us what that is. 13 points. Okay, great. So that's less than 30, right? And there's a difference between those two. So that's good. This is good, healthy, floppy lungs. That's what we want. All right. So again, we'll come back to here. We were at about 20 or 21, and plat was like 13-ish. Okay, that's good. Now I want you to go see if we're auto-peeping, all right, if we're breath stacking. All right, so that's what auto-peep really talks about, is if we're breath stacking, we transition. And let's see, peep total here. To do that, we got to do an expiratory hold or an expiratory pause. So I'll do like 3 seconds, see if we can get a good one. So we're looking for this little area right here. 5.14, which is pretty close to the 5 that we set. So that's total PEEP. All right, that's great. So our PEEP, auto PEEP is essentially 0, because our PEEP and our auto PEEP are the same. If they were different, if total PEEP would have been, let's say 7, then 7 minus the set PEEP that you have would be 2, then your auto PEEP would have been 2. So here we got this guy set up. Oxygenating good. This is just a closed head injury. These are usually pretty simple, and so but there's one more step to do to make sure that we're doing the right thing. Now we've got the blood pressure good, we've got the initial settings going, and we've made sure that the settings are actually reaching the patient. The settings, we could care less what the settings are. It's really the measured data coming out, and the measured data over here telling us that this is pretty close to what the patient wanted or is wanting. And so, or at least, let me say that differently. The settings are matching the output, and that's good. That means that we're hitting our targets. Okay, now what you need to go find out, is this efficient? Is this working for the patient? And to do that, it's simply SpO2 and end tidal. Okay, so we don't have to write it here, but now we can tweak these things and to figure out what's going on. So let's go back. So first off, I like looking at SpO2 because there is such a thing as permissive hypercapnia. There's no such thing as permissive hypoxia. So let's go ahead and knock out SpO2. Looks fantastic. Matter of fact, it's between the 94 and 99 mark. So if you wanted to start dropping down the PEEP or the FO2, let's take that FO2 to 70%. All right, let's see what happens. So we'll give that a few minutes. All right, so we changed it here to 70 instead of 100, and we'll see if that SpO2 changes. I'm kind of watching it now. Still at 98. I'll let you know if it changes because, again, this is a real-time physiology engine. In the meantime, now we also could do end tidal. Now, how do we fix end tidal? We go up on rate, we go up on volume, right? So that's the two things. Now, the danger is if we go up on too much of volume, we could cause, volume trauma, right? So we want to make sure that we keep the pressure under 35 PIP or under 30 at plat. If we go up on rate, we go up how we want until we start breath stacking, until our total PEEP down here is bigger number than our set PEEP. It's that simple. So, let's, and the real question is, do we want to keep the end tidal? It's normal. Do we need to have that higher? This is the question that we would come in and start talking about closed head injury. Do we hyperventilate? Do we not? And so now I think we don't hyperventilate unless there's evidence of herniation, in which case, maybe we'd go down to 35, maybe a little bit lower, but try to target that as much as possible. So right now, I think we just hold off. Jacob, what do you think we should do? I'll give you that. You'll be the final word here, and then we'll kind of wrap up. I should have made more coffee, Jacob. I'm not going to blame you for that, though, boss. I'm assuming you're still here. It looks like you're still here. Copy that. All right. So I think this case we keep it as is. We start monitoring. We keep monitoring because this can change, and our patient can change dynamically. Sometimes they change slow over time. Just be ready for it. But in the end, I think that I definitely want to do this way more often, just like this, doing cases. So if you show up after we've done this live, make sure that you like, follow, subscribe, even comment. Let us know what you want to do next time. I'll be monitoring those to see what we can do for a different one. And we'll practice this, get this a little bit more fine-tuned. But this is first attempt at this, and I really like this. This is fun on my end, and good stuff to be able to use to try to, basically, practice, man. I want us to practice more than just read. I'm tired of just, people are like, well, I didn't pass the exam. Well, what'd you do? I just read. Well, you got to practice it. You got to figure out a way to practice it, whether you're trying to practice for the exam or you're trying to practice for patients. And, if you do both, then, everything's covered. So nonetheless, thank you for putting up with this first draft of this process. We're going to be having more, in the near future with our guided patient scenarios. We're excited to do these. Go to medupros.com, medupros.com. We have guided patient scenarios that are all online as well. You can join our full code, which you get everything in our repertoire, or you can also just jump in and do the cases that we do with these GPS cases, the monthly subscription. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to Charlie at medupros.com or Jacob at medupros.com. Thanks for the time. See you guys.